College Museum of Orange County. I'm Jamie Heber, and I am going to be doing a rose pruning demonstration for you today. We normally do this in person, but because of COVID, we are filming it and sharing it with you. So hopefully you still get the education and skills to know how to do this at home. We typically like to prune dead roses off of the bush throughout the year to generate new growth. But roses usually need at least one heavy pruning annually to continue new growth and health, to get rid of diseases and pests that might be troubling your rose bush. So we like to do that when the plant is dormant. When is the plant dormant? Good rule of thumb to remember is usually between New Year's Day and Valentine's Day. We typically prune our roses here at the museum the last weekend of January, and they are just about in full bloom, back in all of their glory by the end of March, early April. So first things first, we are going to need to put our gloves on. Let's go. All right, before we get started, but after we have our gloves on, you're gonna wanna make sure that your pruning shears are clean. We typically will clean the shears with something of a disinfectant. I know they are difficult to find in stores right now, but if you get your hands on one, it's the best thing to kill any disease from your pruning shears in between rose bushes, so that you don't transfer disease from bush to bush. And this is a good rule of thumb to do when you're doing your regular maintenance on your rose bushes as well. So I'm going to spray these down just a little bit, make sure that they're good. Set this down. Wipe them off with a clean cloth. All right. And we are good to get trimming. So the first step of the actual pruning is you want to remove about the top third of the bush so that you can get a really good view of the structure of the base of the plant. That's going to help you to know what needs to be cut and what needs to be left. So as beautiful as these blooms are right now, we are going to have to remove them. And I just want to share that we do have a little friend here, so we're going to do this one last. This is a very sweet honeybee. So we're going to make sure he gets fed, or she gets fed, before we move on to that particular flower. Okay, and we're good. So you can really do this in any order you want. It's just kind of what's easiest to get around and moving with the bush. So I am going to just kind of clip here, set this aside. We're definitely going to save these flowers. And we just move along throughout the bush, trying to get rid of all this extra fluff, so that, again, we can get a really good view of the plant structure itself. So we've removed the top third of the bush. This is going to give us better insight into, again, what's that word? Structure of the base of the plant. Now, our number one priority from this moment moving forward is we need to remove any branches of the bush that are crossing. We need to remove all of the leaves so that we can completely get rid of all of the disease, the pests, any damage to the plant. So we're really starting at the core. We're cutting it down to just about nothing. So now that we have a better view, I'm going to start doing the actual deep pruning of the bush. Now, there's a very specific way that we do this. There's a particular angle that we need to make each clipping. So let me see if I can find one here. And you know, you may have to do this a couple different times to the same branch within the rose bush as you get closer and closer to the base. So just for example, I am going to select, let's see, I think this might be one of the best ones that can give you a good visual of the angle to clip the branch. So what you want to do is you want to go above this little sprout. Now, the angle that you cut is going to be the angle that the new blooms are going to face. So you want to point it out so that when the plant regrows, all of the blossoms are facing the outside and not the interior of the bush. So if we go here, and I might actually, let's see, I'd actually just trim this one a little bit so we can see that better. So we're gonna go here, and again, this is why it's so important to wear your gloves. These are pretty sharp. So you see here, we've got this little bud here. Now we don't want to cut too close to the bud because then it could fall off and then it won't bloom. But if you go too high, it's going to create a dead stalk and it won't grow at all. So this is probably the most scientific part of the entire process. And it's important to kind of take your time with it. You want to go about a quarter of an inch. And you want to face it out just like that. And voila! So, if you can see that there, the angle is not too flat, but it's also not too sharp. You want to make sure it's just at a slight angle so it's got that little bit of a point going to the outer part of the bush. We are going to repeat this process for a number of steps. Okay, so now we have about as clear of a view as we can possibly get for the base and the structure of the rose plant. Now, we're going to want to make sure that we narrow the plant down to either 5 or 6 of the strongest canes. These are the canes. These are the major branches of the bush. Now, you'll notice here, we have one that has died. So we're going to trim this whole thing off and see how we can remove it from the rest of the plant. Now this guy, this is what we call a sucker. And it's pretty easy to remember that term because this is an offshoot of one of the main base parts of the plant. It's an offshoot directly sprouting from the base instead of forming this healthy structure as the others have done. So it's unnecessarily sucking the life and the nutrients out of the rest of the plant. So we're also going to remove this. Now, to remove these suckers, you just want to get as close as possible to that base so you can get it as low as you can and remove it as best you can. That's about as good as we can get it for right this moment. And because we can see the base of the plant now, we're going to want to remove all of this old mulch and clear it out. Just kind of, oh, there's a little roly-poly. And just clean it up as best we can without hurting any of our roly-poly friends. That is very important. You also want to do this after you prune the bush, because for some reason, roses, if any of the clippings or petals or parts of the branches that we cut off remain, they don't like that. So it's going to prevent the growth and the regrowth of the plant if we leave any of those clippings at the base here. So we want to make sure that we get all of that cleared out and start fresh. Now we're going to want to replace the mulch, but not right away. We wait at least about a month before we add new fresh mulch. We highly recommend using Kellogg Garden products. So this is generally how you're going to leave the bush. It's going to be bare. You're going to make sure that all of the leaves are gone so that there's no chance for the new bush to get disease or fungus or pests. Now, if you notice any of that as the plant regrows, there are really great remedies and solutions. I recommend looking to the UC Master Gardener's website. They have a lot of really wonderful information, especially on the pruning of roses. And we're so glad that you joined us today. Thank you so much. We better get going because we have about 140 more bushes to go. So thank you. I hope you learned something. If you have questions or would like to know more information, please visit our website, look up our contact information. We'd be happy to be in touch with you. Thank you. And my mom one day was cleaning my room. Oh, there's a worm. That's a good sign. And she found my puppy purse and it was like all crunchy. And she opened it and it was all dead roly-polies because I collected them. I didn't think that they would die. It was very sad when I realized they were not alive.